Hi. Hey, everybody. I was thinking today that we're just going to jump right in. For those new to the channel, I'm Corey Rennie, unemployable counselor. I got a cool new logo. And when I was making that logo, I was thinking that probably the best thing that I ever did in my life, besides my kids, was just deciding to live my life. And I say that because a lot of us, when we have a job or we have other things that we're beholden to, family, right? Like I said, employment, right? You have responsibilities, obligations. Okay, it's good to meet those, right? But the best thing I ever decided to do was live my life, and I'll tell you what I mean. As I said, I go by the unemployable counselor, right? I think it was clever, but I also think as well that it's a little tongue in cheek, because when you've worked with mental health and addictions and things like that for as long as I have, and with some of the different amounts of responsibility I've had and all various types of responsibilities and all that kind of stuff, you tend to become the job or the title, right? You define yourself with that, right? Again, it's like that with any job, right? You're a hockey player, you define yourself by playing hockey. You're a doctor, you define yourself by being a doctor, right? Like, I think that's goes with everything, but you also hit a point in your life where you kind of look back and you think to yourself, the things that I thought I was doing for the greater good, were they? Like, were they really for the greater good, or was it more for, fortune and glory, right? Because I had some good jobs and I made some good money. And one of the things I found when I reached the top of what I needed to get to, that it was hollow. There wasn't a lot to it, right? And I mean, I think a lot of people experience that. And many people call it midlife crisis. People can call it, I don't really believe so much in regret. But I do think, though, as we go along this journey in life, before we shuffle off this mortal coil, we're never really gone, right? Like, we can identify as something, but we're all much more than that. And I find that on the course of my journey, I hate terms like self-discovery. I know I'm a counselor, but Jesus, I always thought things like sound a little bit more pretentious than it needs to be. I think sometimes people just can kind of look back and see things for what they are. I had an instructor tell me once that she really appreciated that I seem to have a sixth sense to tell when people are bullshitting me. And I call that my superpower, right? And that's where I think, as long as it wasn't anything to do with me directly and personally, I'm pretty good at filtering people out. And sometimes your view clouds your judgment. However, the point of my talking about this is that I think when you've had all the experiences that you can have, and then you get to where you think you want to be, and you look around and realize that it's empty, it's hollow, and it might not necessarily be what you thought it was going to be. I'll give you an example, right? I went back to post-secondary education a little later, right? So when I was done, I always thought, you know what, you get out of school, you get a job, you get the power, you get the girl, all that kind of stuff, right? And it kind of unfolded like that. Now, a lot of people could say, well, you manifested it in your mind to be that way, right? And maybe, I don't know, I'm a big fan of the power of positive thinking, but I also think that some things are just laid out. I don't think necessarily things are predetermined. If they were, then free will wouldn't be an issue, because you're going to get to this point regardless what you choose. I think instead that you do make your own path, but I do think that there's some obviously obstacles you need to overcome or things you've got to come face with. Crossroads, I like to call them, right? You veered right where you should have veered left, that sort of thing. So I think that when you work in any profession, you begin to intertwine yourself with that profession, right? It could be ego, vanity, mainly money, because the higher you get in different things, usually the more money you make. And usually in a job, that's how you tell you're doing a good job. You get raises, you get promotions, you get accolades, perhaps. I've never been one for public accolades, just believe it or not, even though I have a YouTube channel, I've never been one for that sort of thing. But I also believe in some old-time fundamental principles of how people should act, and integrity is one of them. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not without fault, because I am, believe me, right? There's lots of things I wish I could have done differently, and again, I don't consider that regrets. I just look back and see I made the best choice that I could at the time based on what I knew. But then when you get more information, you can easily say, well, I could have revised or done that differently had I known what I know now, right? Chris Christopherson wrote in a song made most famous by Janis Joplin, and that would be, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Once you hit that point where you can kind of speak unfiltered and not worry about losing your job or losing reputation or whatever based off that, that's definitely a free moment. But I mean, like, people retire and they still identify themselves as lawyers, doctors, whatever, right? Because it's what they did. That's who they are. But that's not who they are really. That's just what they did. I was an addictions counselor. I am an addictions counselor. But that's not who I am at my core, right? And I think that's a lot of times people mistake that for positive, or success is measured in a lot of times how much money you have, what you own, right? Do you have a good looking family, right? Or all those sorts of things. Do you not have a rooster on the wall, right? Those kind of ideas. But I think in the long run, it really boils down to, like, who are you really? And I know with me, a lot of times I got wrapped up in the jobs. I got jobs, worked my way up, got some good jobs as, you know, in different organizations and management roles. But I always found it very hollow once I got there. I had an old partner who would say stuff like, you know, you're just always looking, just be happy with what you got. You're always looking for the next big thing. It's because it wasn't enough. I know, Mando. I know. Come here. Right? Because that's just how it works. Stop. Right? That's just how it works and how it goes. So, I mean, you're always looking for what's next down that road for you. And it's not a good way to be. Because you're always looking for the next thing and you're not enjoying what's in the moment, because when you get there, there's nothing there to enjoy. All that work for what? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who it is, you're just a number. And if you seem like there's issues there that they don't want, that you don't need to be there anymore, there's 3 people waiting to swoop up and take that role, because that's just how it works. Other people chasing the same thing you are or were. Okay? Maybe I'm just getting more philosophical in my old age, but I think that as things unfold, you have to love what you do, and you have to be content with just doing that, being that person that does that. I'm not saying ambition's bad. What I'm saying is that the grass isn't always greener. And when you define yourself by what you do, you kind of lose who you really are in the process. And maybe who you really are isn't who you want to be, and that's okay. A lot of us get like that, or leave school, reinvent ourselves, have different opportunities come up, and we use that as a catalyst. Oh, I'm going to change this about me and whatever. And for some people, that's great. But ultimately, we all end in the same place. Personally, I think that These are just our suitcases that we're in. And when we leave, we're gone, and the suitcase are left behind. And maybe we're all energy and we connect to each other. Maybe there's a higher power or something out there that calls us all back. I don't know those questions. I know someday we'll find out for sure. But I do think that while we're here, we should really focus more on who we are as opposed to what we do. Because, man, I've had lots of friends, I've had lovers, I've had all kinds of things that people have defined that or got places just based on what it is you have. Like, I'm talking materialistic and what you do. Again, more of a materialistic, And I can understand people wanting security or, oh, you know what, I was going to date this person, but they're this. But this person has a better job, so I'm going to go with this person because they have a career. But I don't really love them, right? Pardon me. Those things happen. Those things happen all the time. And it's not fair to the person who's in it, because if they think they're in it for the long haul and it doesn't work that way, that can be very deflating and very hard to deal with. So when you're doing something, remember, you still have to be you. And a good example is, there's been, in the stories I've heard and the conversations I've had with people, the couple common threads remain. There's always people you're friends with at work, for example, that can go good for a while, but usually ambition kind of gets in the way. I can remember being an addictions counselor, and then when I moved up to a different level, it was different because I wasn't one of them anymore. I was something else. Not necessarily my perception, but their perception. Us versus them, right? That sort of thing. And it was a lesson. And management is a lonely pursuit because you can't be everybody's friend. You're not always going to get along with people. Even if you're out of scope and other people are out of scope, it's still very Game of Thrones-esque where everyone's still trying to top everybody else to get to that position. It doesn't matter. In a dead heat, it's every man for themselves. And I found too, and that's one of the things why I'm doing this channel here, is because I find that I really lost sight of who I was if I wasn't that. And that's very, I don't want to say enlightening, but that was a very... That was a rude awakening when I kind of discovered that. And I knew that a long time ago. I knew, I went for things for the prestige, for the money, not necessarily for the love or for the want. Okay, maybe that's not true. I wanted the position, but I wanted it for the wrong reasons. Right? And I think now, for anyone out there listening, right, you got to weigh those options out, because we always need money, right? Money is always paramount. But you don't need to make $1 million a year to live. It would be nice to have $1 million so you can have that freedom, because it buys freedom. But if you're working all the time in order to achieve that, most of the time when you're eventually able to enjoy the fruits of those labors, a lot of times it ends up being too late. And then you find yourself old, sick, right? Struggling, not money-wise, but with the things that really matter. Maybe health, maybe missed time with family, things like that. And I mean, I have a dry sense of humor, right? I do. I find odd things funny, and I find that it took a long time for me to kind of recognize the humor in situations, because we can only do what we can in the time we got with what we know in that moment, and hence those crossroads I talked about earlier. Right? And I mean, I have friends now that I've reconnected with that I haven't seen for a long time, and I got some new friends, and that's kind of nice, because I mean, it's, that's that kind of stuff for me that makes life fun. The silly jokes, the coffee, just the hanging out, the little moments, spending time with my kids, right? That kind of stuff. I put a lot of time in to a lot of things that paid off for other people. because I thought I was working towards something, and then it turned out that I wasn't. I was working towards something for somebody else. And those things are sad. Like, I have no blame myself. I'm not sitting here being like, woohoo, no. It's not about that at all. It's just about, at the end of the day, there's only so many things you can do. So make sure you don't get lost in the shuffle. And just because you have a job doesn't mean that's all you are, right? You might be expected to put a whole lot more time in there than you're comfortable with, and you have to be able to be prepared to say, you know what, I'm not doing that. When I work places now, and I don't have those same commitments, and I'm like, I have like some free time, because I'm not putting the pressure on myself to achieve an unrealistic goal by limiting myself to what I can do or who I can talk to or anything like that, just because of something that I perceive might happen if I play that game, because you never ever get that part. Mando's a little sad tonight because he's thinking the same thing. Come here, Mando. Right? So look, just some food for thought. And remember, the biggest part, takeaway from all this, besides my dog barking, Mando, it's enough, is that regardless what you do, just remember that you're important in this as well. And if you get lost in the shuffle, that's going to impact everything you're fighting for now. So you need to stay grounded, you need to stay focused, and you need to remember that not everything is about what you are. It's about who you are inside, okay? It's not what you do, it's who you are, okay? All right. That's some good advice, I think, on a very chilly Sunday night, right? Because we all end up in the same places. We all get older, we all get sick, and maybe one day we'll all be on some cloud somewhere, who knows? That's it. Leave some comments in the comments. Share, tell your friends. I think that at the end of the day, all we can do is be there for ourselves. And if we're good with us, other people will be too. And it makes relationships and everything that we're trying to forge that much stronger. And just because you do something, that doesn't mean that's all you are. Okay? We all make mistakes. We all have challenges. We all view life in a different way. Embrace it. Okay? Embrace that. Hold on to it. Don't let that go. Because ultimately, that's all we have. Money fades, looks fade, relationships fade, right? But who you are remains. Okay? Boy, I'm a tad reflective tonight. It's crazy. Anyways, I'm Corey Rennie, unemployable counselor. I appreciate you sticking around for this hopefully not too morose conversation tonight. We're going to be back at it, making more product. So check it out. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll catch you on the channel. Take care.